and I welcome you to number 57 of us slot car guys getting together on Zoom and chatting about slot car related things of all kinds. Again, for those watching who are new to the show, while there might be a consensus of most of us are running 30-second scale hard-bodied slot cars, that's not a requirement. You can be an HO guy, you can be a speed crazed morons guy, you can be a Moto City, whatever, I forget what those are called, the lifelike, the cars just go around at car speed guy, whatever kind of guy you are. If you are a guy that has a car that has a guide of some sort, usually a slot with a pin or a guide and then electrical contacts, by all means, please feel free to join this chat or send me a comment that says, hey, Greg, I'd like to see you guys talk about such and such. Join without a camera, without a microphone. We've got guys here with no camera and no microphone who just put text chats and ask questions via text chat that we can answer live. Do that. Don't be afraid to come on and have some fun. Super casual. That's all there is to that. So with that having been said, does anybody have any show and tell they'd like to show or tell about? New projects, new purchases, new track changes?
How about bragging?
Drag racing? If it's got a slot.
No. Drag with a B, bragging.
Oh, absolutely, brag. What you got to brag about?
Well, I showed you guys a Thunder Slot chassis 2 or 3 episodes ago with what everybody thought was a big chunk of lead in the thing, in the center, a big triangular section of lead down the center pod.
Okay.
Anyway, that car was built for the Can-Am Proxy, which is just getting underway. It's got 27 or 28 cars from the mainland US, Hawaii, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. And we just had the first qualifying run to start off the thing. And that heavy Thunder Slot car with the lead in it had the quickest mean average lap times over 20 laps. It did not get the pole position. It was 3 1,000ths off of the pole position. And there you go. That's all. That's enough for me.
I mean, like you said, proxies, you set up a car completely differently for a proxy. And basically, right, you made that car super predictable, super forgiving, super reliable, and it just gets the laps, basically. And pretty good, because you're only 3 1,000ths off the pole.
3 1,000ths off the pole. The top 2 cars were 2/10ths quicker than anything else. And I had the lowest mean lap time over 20 laps. So that bodes well for the, being able to drive it quickly and consistently. So
yeah,
we shall see what happens.
And I know you didn't set it up such that it's going to fall apart after the first heat or two. So it's probably.
Well, you try not to.
It's likely to make it a good way through the proxy. 28 entries, you said? That's a pretty good turn.
I think 27, 28, I think.
Yeah, that's some competition there. Is it coming your direction at some point?
The Can-Am, no. It's going to, I think Christian Gingras is holding around at what used to be Slot Car Corner Canada. That's in Quebec. That's more on the East Coast. And then there's 2 or 3 races on the West Coast of Canada, and the bulk of them are in the US, mainland US.
Well, that's too bad you won't get to see your competition up close and impersonal, but it sounds like you're doing pretty good.
Yep.
Awesome. Anybody else participating in that proxy? I don't see anybody raising their hand, so I'll assume no. But hey, if you're participating in that or any other proxy, or watching this show, come on and give Chris some shit. Does anybody else have anything they want to show off?
I've got that today.
Oh, all right. Let me focus in on you. Hey, you got the blue trophy. Awesome. Yeah, Wayne was sharing his online, I think on Facebook, And it looks like he added a little color to his. Are you going to add a little color to differentiate the checkers?
You know what's going to go down through the middle, don't you?
Yellow. Yes. I want to see that when you've got some yellow on it for sure.
I might even pick out some of the alternate flags as well.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Put little black marks on the checks to make them pop out. Yeah, perfect. Awesome. Anybody else got anything they want to show and tell? Got anything, Big Den?
Just hold it up again, Wayne. I'll give it a spray for you. Sorry, Paul. There we go. Hold it up.
There you go. Okay, all good now. Well, I can dig into my topic bin if you guys want me to do that already. Usually we have a whole lot more show and tell. Slothead's joining us. Let's get him on there. Don, I see it.
I've got something for you, Greg.
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
I've got the
Is that the NSR?
latest NSR,
Yeah. How's she run?
and I got some from Cincy Slots. I got a bunch of old ones. This is a Spirit 936,
Ah,
and unfortunately, I can't find the one I got specifically for you
well, thank you, Mike.
because it was your colors,
Of course. Sunoco,
but I did get some others.
go ahead.
So I've got the Lola, the Gulf Lola slotted.
Slot it, yeah.
And I've been looking for this for a really long time.
Ah, Skylectric.
It's the Skylectric Porsche,
Yeah.
the modern LMP2 car. And then something I'd never seen before was the yellow Alpha T33,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty. And then finally, one of my favorite cars is the Porsche 910.
Oh, cool. Is that a fly?
These were all used and pretty inexpensive and kind of cool.
Who makes that 910?
That's an MRRC.
MRRC. Okay. I was thinking either that or fly.
No, it wasn't a fly. It was MRC is like Revell.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the same type of chassis. Unfortunately, it's got an FFO 50 motor in it, but
They can't
such
all-
as it is.
Well, it's a good candidate.
Yeah,
for
well, I'll put a
chassis
scale
swap.
auto one in and it'll be fine.
Or swap out the whole chassis with something a little bit more appropriate.
Yeah, I could.
I mean, there's more wrong to those chassis than just the motor, dude. I mean, or
It's
at least
true.
do the full blueprinting, get that thing on a flat plate and, do all the necessaries. Then, some better gears, some better everything. Maybe you can keep the chassis.
Yeah,
He's
especially
got one of
tires.
What was that?
He can't tease us saying he's got a blue and yellow.
He can't find it. I'm
Well,
guessing
I got a
it's Sunoco.
956 blue and yellow one. And I don't know where it is.
Probably Sunoco. What are you flashing for the camera, Leo?
Talking about proxies, just got back from mainland Europe today. The Porsche Carrera cars
Oh yeah.
that were competing in a proxy over in, Germany and Austria. This is the one where we printed the chassis.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got a printed chassis with the printed guide.
Yep.
And the basic premise of the event was that it's used a standard Carrera Go body shell, and the motor, so the running gear, the motor, the axles, the crown gear, the gears, everything are standard Carrera apart from the chassis itself and the guide flag. So these came back today. My car sort of did reasonably well. Got one podium. I think there were like six actual events. So got one podium with that. The other car that came back belongs to Kev, who's known as Oxo Cube on the forums. So he printed his chassis white. I don't know why. Is that right? And don't ask how his car did, but he was competing quite well as well. So yes, so these are just back fresh from the event. There were 39 entries on that. So quite an undertaking for the hosts to run it.
Yeah. Did anybody do multiple entries, or was that 39 people?
39 people. We were only allowed to enter one car each.
Wow.
I sent the cars over because saving on postage. Sent the two of them. So I'll send Kev's his back probably tomorrow or Monday. But talking of proxies and number of entries, there's a proxy running on Slot Racer just now, which is called Brighton to John O'Groats. The idea is that the event starts down in Brighton on the south coast of the United Kingdom and finishes somewhere in the north. So, I'm hosting the final round here at Edinburgh, so a bit distant from John O'Groats, is about 400 miles north to John O'Groats, but we are sort of classifying it as Brighton to John O'Groats. There's 68 entries for that event.
Wow. No, thank you.
So the cars are coming to me next weekend. They're actually with Oxo Cube this weekend. So next weekend, I'll have the pleasure of running 68 cars. So should be good fun, though, I think.
I was gonna say that's a whole weekend of running.
Yeah.
Are
Yes.
you basically just do them one at a time, best lap kind of thing?
Yeah.
Or- yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Run individually, and but two events. So it's kind of like a road. It's the theme of this event is kind of like the Cannonball events in the USA,
Mhm.
coast to coast kind of thing, and it's that kind of premise. So effectively, they're like road cars, and there's two sections to it for each host runs two sections, two segments. One is kind of like sprint event, and one is more a longer endurance type event. So the endurance bit, of course, is running 68 cars.
Yeah, it's an endurance for the
Oh.
host.
Yeah.
Yes,
Very nice. Oh, did you find the blue and yellow car?
I found it for you.
Okay, show it off. Oh, I've got that one. I'm racing it as my or last time draw I did a race. I raced that one as my Group C card.
Right,
Yeah,
excellent.
it's fun. Yeah, it's a beautiful car.
Yeah, it's one of the older ones too. Came with the white bell motor. At least mine did.
Yeah, definitely worth $25.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah, no brainer. Can I buy it from you? I need a spare. I'll give you 30.
Dude.
Yeah, that's a great deal. Geez, $25 for that. And in good condition, it looked like.
That's for two of them, though.
Yeah.
eh?
Pardon me?
That's for two yellow and blue cars, right? $25?
No.
Because apparently they're cheap. Yeah, that's what it is. Nobody likes yellow and blue. Just those crazies. Well, I spy a new face. I don't remember Nate Jones being on here before. Nate, you want to tell us a little bit about Nate Jones's slot car history?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Cool. I grew up, in the 80s. My two older brothers had AFX or the HO, typical HO, tons of track, and we used to race and had a lot of fun. I remember growing up, and I would always be building layouts, and after high school and junior high, I was pretty much peaked out, and then didn't really think about it much at all, and then it just kind of came up recently, and with the pandemic and everything, we just kind of decided, yeah, let's build a racetrack, and got back into it, got Skelectric stuff going here, and built up a fairly decent sized track behind me here, and I posted it up on the International Slot Forum. I think I'm N Jones 11, and I've been going through some design stuff. It's been a while since I built a racetrack, so I tore out the corkscrews, and now I put a windy part in the middle. It's kind of fun. I took a variety of different radius turns and built some kind of like a river through the middle, and it's fun. Got quite a bit of variation now and some faster parts of the track too. And so anyway, I've been watching the chats for a while, and so I joined in and share some stuff I've been doing.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us.
Cool.
I've been watching your layout progress on Slot Forum. Good to see some progress there. I'm sure things will change inevitably. They change quite a bit over the first few months at least.
Yeah, the thing I kind of regret, but in some ways, just the way I've been constructing the underlayment with banking, it's kind of difficult to modify it once you put it all together. So I've been able to rearrange some of it and reutilize some of it. They're pretty fun to run the banks. So they're just a slight grade, so it's not really, twisting the track too much. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and not going to tell you what to do or how to enjoy the hobby, obviously. But
Yeah.
at first, try not to build a permanent anything.
Yeah.
for
I
a good
did
several
that
months.
With the HO stuff, at one point I built a relatively permanent with plaster and everything. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now what?
If only because you put so much work and materials and other things into that setup that anytime anything bothers you, you're like, I'm not
Yeah.
going to change that. Whereas if
Right.
you leave it kind of books and CD cases and chunks of wood or whatever it is to support a thing to let you drive on it, you don't mind just shuffling it all aside and switching it up again. And then eventually you're not changing it anymore. And it's like, okay, well, now I'll go ahead and put the work in,
Yeah.
do all that stuff. But yeah, you've got a nice big table for just all kinds of flexibility. So yeah, that's.
I've been working on the extension over here.
Oh, you're lengthening it. Even better.
A little more length of the track. Got the cars going full speed for a few seconds. It's fun.
Exactly. I mean, whenever anybody asks for, I mean, you were already so far ahead that I did not contribute my normal how do I design a layout. But it
Yeah,
always starts
I've
with,
seen a lot of YouTube videos on it, and the only mistake I made was thinking I could get away with putting a crossover track without enough straight in front of it.
oh yeah. I
And
mean,
also the pit too.
there's some cardinal rules that you can't break when it comes to digital, like
Yeah.
not enough run up to the sensor. But I mean, just in general for slot car tracks. And basically what I say is, number one, always go with the absolute largest table you can fit into your space with enough room to get around it so you can pick up crashed cars. And then
Right.
start with the absolute longest straight that you can get into it. And then connect the ends with the biggest variety of turns you can come up with. But don't repeat turns, because you're going to do hundreds of thousands of laps. So if every turn is similar to the next, then your lap is going to be boring and you're not going to want to do 1,000 laps. But if every turn is different, then each lap repeats those turns, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, but yeah, you're doing great. I look forward to seeing progress and yeah, keep.
Yeah, and otherwise I'd
work.
love to chat about some cars I got and some of the stuff I've been doing with those.
Are you doing
Kind of
customs or-
surprising where you think one car isn't very great, and then after you work on it for a while, and it's probably one of the better cars, and just kind of surprising sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit can often go a long way from an out of the box car. It just can completely change it with a little bit of work. Yeah.
And I pretty much right away decided I wasn't going to do magnets. And they're okay, but it's just more fun without them, and trying to get them to run better without the magnets is more fun. So we've been racing without them for pretty much since the beginning.
Tires.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Okay.
again, thanks for joining us. Chime in anytime you want to share or ask anything.
Sure.
And apparently we're seeing Mike's screen. That looks like Michael Block. Michael, are you on here? Or need to
Yep, I'm
unmute your
on.
microphone.
Can you hear me?
There we go. Now we can hear you.
Yeah. That's what the final looks like, if you can see it. I don't know if you can see it or not, but
Yeah, we can see it.
so,
So that's as is, right?
yeah, that's as is.
Have
I
you
mean,
written
there's
on
a
it
couple
much?
changes since that picture, but not in the layout, so.
How much?
Just
racing
added
you
some
done on it?
walls. So,
Got any racing in on it?
huh?
Got any racing in on it?
Racing? No, I've done some testing, but we haven't done any racing. The racing's going to be in 2 weeks. So I got about a dozen guys coming, I hope. So,
Yeah, I bet
and none
things
of
will
them
change
have,
after that.
well, that's not true. 4 of them have done digital before, and the other 8 are going to be like, no. But we took the magnets out anyway, so we'll make them drive. So it's all right. It's all right by me. So
Stop it.
yeah, I mean, this was done, with a lot of with a lot of help from you, and because there was a lot of stuff that we had to putz with to get it to work, and it's 8 by 16, so it's the size of the table. So,
Yep.
but it was, and that's the track that's happening in the fall. That's the new one. So, and that's 8 by 20. So 8 by 24, sorry. So we'll see how that works out. But yeah, I mean, I kind of jumped in both feet first, and I wound up in a fire pit. So that wasn't really what I was hoping. I mean, it's doing exactly what I want it to do. But as you know, my world is HO, not 1/32 scale. So
You want to introduce yourself to the group?
yeah, I've been doing HO since 1999. I'm probably the most prolific buyer of routed HO tracks in the country. I've owned 43. We're about to own a routed 1/32 scale digital track by Brad's Tracks. The first one's a test track that's 4x8. And then the next one's going to be significantly larger, about 150-foot lap length. So that'll be interesting if we can get everything to work like we want. So I host 2 annual events. Obviously, the pandemic killed them last year. This year, we're doing both of them. 12-hour enduro, and I'm doing, as you know, the Coral in July. So that's a HO style freight race here. I've been hosting that for 15 years. We'll get about 30 drivers at that. So yeah, so it'll be interesting. I mean, looking forward to driving something that actually looks like a race car, which is so so that's fun. And then trying to figure out what can and can't be done and what should and shouldn't be done. I don't, there's, like in all forms of racing, there isn't a specific set of rules or some sort of guidelines to go by. It's like each club has its own thing, and each club does its own kind of scenario, and that's true for HO as well as 124th or 132nd. But I just but I got a group a couple hours from here that does digital every weekend, so they're going to come up here and help me make a fool of myself. But that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. I don't mind learning. It's okay. So anyways, yeah, I've been doing HO since 1999. Never owned a plastic AFX Tomy model motoring clip together track. Always routed. Not always Brad's tracks, but everybody else and Brad. But so I may hop on this and we start doing the bigger 1/32 scale and try and get into actually where to put the switches, where to put the lane changes, because it's the track's going to be like 25 by 25, so it's going to be a big layout. So and 2-lane, I don't think I'm going to go to 4, like England did with their a Ninco for their 24-hour or whatever. I don't think I'm doing that, but 2-lane and maybe oxygen. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Probably wireless for sure, but I don't know whether it's going to be oxygen or not. But we'll see how the test track goes. It's 4x8. It's got an out to in and an in to a left to right and right to left lane change, any control unit built into the routed track. So we'll see how that works and see how that works going through the braid. And hopefully it'll work fine. And then we'll just go ahead and expand it out to the 25 by 25. And then invite all you guys to come play with cars. It's fine by me. I'm in Wisconsin if anybody cares to know, but so you know, I'm learning. Bought a lot of used gear, bought a lot of new gear, and just it took us a while to figure out some nuances. But thanks to Greg and YouTube, I wasn't a total schmuck. So partial schmuck maybe, but not total. So it's okay. I mean, we'll have some fun. We're going to work on it, next couple of weekends. The power's fine. The track has 9 power jumpers in it. I put a jumper in front of every lane change, basically. So there would never be a failure on the lane change. So, and I've got things for doing the sector timings on there as well, and that worked out really well. So, just luckily I don't drive HO cars with magnets or weak magnets anyways, compared to quote magnet racers, but so it's not too crazy, but it's going to take some getting used to make sure I can keep it off the walls. So, hey, is there some kind of industry standard voltage for this stuff? I'm just curious. I mean,
No.
I mean, I've got adjustable power supply on it, and that's fine. And my freight cars run at 20 volts, and that's fine. But there's certainly more downforce in my freight cars than there are in.
Generally, it tends to be lower than 20 volts.
Thanks.
136.
I got that. That much I knew. Okay, but
okay.
okay. So I mean, if there's some, I mean, I've had it at 12. I've had it at 13. I've had it at 14. I mean, I have, and I'm running everything stock out of the box. I'm not running anything tricked out or any high RPM motors or anything. I'm just trying to figure out how to keep it on in the slot. So.
Start about 12 miles, go from there basically. If you're just running stock tires, stock cars, start at 12, possibly 10. You'll soon find, you sit at sort of 12, then up it to 14. That's quite a jump. And if it works, great. Possibly go to 15. But I would start about 12. Just because that's what we tend to run about 12, 12 and a half, 11.
Yeah, I think I ran it last night at about 13 volts. Works. So, and it worked out.
It's a big thing though. Without the magnets, it's all about grip, isn't it? So, but find the tyre and just stick to one tyre. So whether you keep the stock or you go to a Scottish or an NSR, just use the same compound. Yeah. Gluing and truing. If you bought something like an Ultra Grip, Super Grip, or one of the Scottish Fs, if you put it on those big hubs and you just basically run them round, it's going to take you probably 100 laps, 200 laps to get them sort of reasonably true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't, people go on about oil. Yes, you can oil them and, to get the grip. You're starting off, just don't do anything. The only thing I would possibly put on them is a little bit of petrol. Yeah. Get some tape and just tape them clean. Yeah. But don't go too mad with the fluids. At Oxford, we run a 4-lane Minco there. We used to run 19 volts, and I could quite happily run an untreated tyre on a plastic or an alloy hub, unglued, and they didn't come off because I wasn't treating them. So it's all these things you have to learn. But I would suggest about 12 volts and stick to one tyre compound, whether it be the standard Carrera or.
I appreciate the advice for sure. I mean, because it's certainly I'm a neophyte at these things, so that's fine. And I could, any advice, because I listen to you guys, I watch the YouTube videos, and I try and pay attention. And I think last night I was out there running it at 13 volts, and but that's with that's with cars with all the magnets in them. So I'm taking them out this weekend. So we'll see what kind of insanity that ensues for me for doing that. Yeah, Greg.
So I want to interject that Mike is talking about digital 132nd, specifically
Right.
Carrera digital.
Right.
And Carrera digital comes in both 132nd and 124th. The Carrera 124th kit, the control unit is exactly the same as 132nd, except the power supply is an 18-volt power supply because their 124th car motors have a lower rating, and so 18 volts works better with their 124, with their stock Carrera 124th cars. The 132nd system comes with, I believe, a 14 volt or maybe 15.
I think it's 14 volt. I don't use the power supply. I've got a custom cable
Yeah,
built.
I'm just kind of giving you a baseline of what.
No, that's good. I
Start
mean,
with.
that's good.
So if you're doing 132nd Carrera cars, then putting 14 or so into the control unit is what the cars are expecting. But that's why Carrera also included the power level thing that you can do and set cars to 110, 10% presumably power level adjustments, because at full 100% power, sometimes they're a little hard to control, but then you crank it down for the kids, or taking magnets out or whatever. But then as soon as you start plopping down non-Carrera cars, it's out the window. So you basically just kind of drive the car around, and either since you're using a nice adjustable power supply, you either turn the volts down or turn them up. The problem, of course, with turning them down is that the lane changers don't like to work at lower voltage because they won't be quite as snappy and responsive. So you don't want to go too low. So you want to kind of go not too much lower than maybe 13 or 14 volts. And if that's too much for any given car, especially once you start pulling the magnets out, use the control unit power level adjustment to give them less power so that they're easier to.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I am doing that race here in July. There's going to be, God help us, 25 guys running. So
I'll be there to help you. But obviously you're going to learn a lot in 2 weeks. You said you're having some guys over for a race.
Yeah.
You've been tooling around on it. That's one thing. But once you get a bunch of guys who are actually going to be competing for the win,
right,
another story. Yeah.
And
if anybody starts complaining about, I don't want to race 132nd digital cars, just say it's a slot car, you pussy. Fucking pull the trigger.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. I mean, a slot car is a slot car, and not, and I've done, probably, as much as anybody else is 124th or 132nd or whatever, and analog to digital. But, to me, the digital is a whole new realm for me. So,
I mean, when it comes down to it, the only difference, because you're still driving a slot car, the only difference is that the good drivers need to be good drivers and not run through any car that's in front of them, which is the hardest part for somebody who's an analog, because you're used to not having anybody in your lane unless they crashed, and most of the time you're used to them being scooped out of your lane after they've crashed because marshals. So with digital, you got somebody in your lane who's slower than you because you're a better driver, you've got a better car, whatever the situation is. You can't just push them off the track. You got to be like in a real race and change lanes.
I mean, no, I get it. I mean, it's in the first incantation of my track, I had the lane change too close to the pit entry. So every time I changed the lane, I wound up in the pits, and it's like, well, that didn't work. Let's try plan B. So so that didn't work out too well. So, but
yeah, one of the common mistakes with those new to digital is they want to put lane changers everywhere, because in a real race you can change lanes wherever you are on a track, right? You don't have to wait for a lane changer. But then they'll have like 2 or 3 lane changers in a row on a straightaway, and you can't hit one of them. You end up hitting all 3 of them sometimes.
No, we learned some lessons early on when we had the first couple of layouts up, and I mean, that design, but we had the lane. We kept taking it apart and moving the lane changers and stuff because it was just too difficult. You had to plan too far in advance. Okay, and so, and then if you screw it up and you wound up in a different lane than you wanted anyway, so you wound up in the pits, and
Well,
You
that's
know.
going to happen no matter what. I mean, eventually you have to learn where the lane changes are, so that while you're looking ahead for that guy who might be in your lane who's going slower than you, you can predict which lane changer to use to get the best line.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's going to happen where guys are going to pass people on my straightaway through the pits.
Because people are going to be pulling through the pit accidentally.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's like, you know, so in order to avoid somebody, I'll just go into the pits and drive around them, you know, and
Yeah, that's one of the advantages. I don't think there's a way to do it with Carrera Digital, but with Scalextric and Oxygen, you can basically set when the car has been determined to be in the pit lane using sensors or whatever.
yeah, you can lower the voltage or whatever. So
slows them down. Yeah. So
yeah, I don't think I can do that in Carrera. I'm not sure, but
I've never heard of a way, but you might be able to do it with some electronic wizardry of some sort. But yeah, that's one of the things I like about Scalextric and Oxygen. As soon as you pull in the pit lane and you cross the sensor, it hits your brakes for you. It straight up
right.
slows you down. So there's no advantage. You can probably set up some kind of penalty, like if you go through the pit lane without stopping, then it
Mhm.
penalizes you somehow. But that would be software. I don't know if there's a software thing that does that.
I don't, you know, I'm still new to the apps and to what is it, HSS RMS or whatever that one. So, and I don't obviously I have my own software for HO and 124th analog, so that's obvious.
I don't race a whole lot of. I mean, I have Carrera, I have a track, and I have stuff to mess around with, so I know a little bit. But I don't race with those programs enough to know if they already have a way to penalize.
I don't know either. I'm told that Scale Electric does. So
yeah, we can do that if you've got a sensor. That's the funny thing is that Carrera comes with a sensor, but Scalextric doesn't. But people who've added sensors to their track can add that functionality, but Carrera can't. It's weird. Anyways, what I would say is that if it's found that such a feature does not exist, I bet Bruce would add that. That's not a bad idea. I might go in on one of his threads and say, hey, is that feature there, or can you add that?
can you add it? Yeah,
Like
you
if
know,
you just drive through without doing anything, can you penalize the person who does that as a way to prevent people from using it as an intentional way to get around
slower cars?
Would
yeah.
it not count a lap if you put the lap counter on the straight?
Well,
and
the
you're
lap counter,
when
can
you
do
do a pit stop, it won't count that lap because your start finish line is on the main straight.
in Carrera, you can program the sensors in the pit lane to either count the lap or not count the lap. You have a choice when you set it up. In the control unit, you can say, when you refuel, count a lap, or if you refuel, don't count a lap, okay? But I don't, right now, I've got the sensors all lined up in the exact same spot. You know, all the ones in the pits are the same as my
parallel.
yeah,
Yeah.
parallel
If
to
you
my
put-
control unit.
If
So
you put the sensor too early and it's counting laps, then
yeah, I did that. We found that one out by mistake. You could win the race by just cutting into the pits and go, I beat you, you know, because I beat you by 6 feet or whatever. And it's like, no, you cheater, you know, but so that's why we actually redesigned the track, because I actually had it that way. And my control unit was used, so whoever had it before had it counting laps when I set it up. So I'm counting laps and I'm racing one guy, and I cut into the pits and I won. And he like, how'd you do that? I said, well, that counts laps. And so we moved the start line so they're all the same. You know, my pit lane counter and my start line counter is all, you know, they're all on the same line. So, but yeah, we figured that one out, and that was a no-no because I got too many racers here that would bark. So,
I mean, since there's a sensor there, it could probably be done with software. It's just a matter of the software developers doing.
I don't know about smart race or anything like that. Right now, I'm just running software to count laps. I mean, so, you know, that's all I'm doing right now. So I'm not running any races or anything. I will be, but anyways, I'll let you gentlemen go. You guys know a whole lot more than me, but
Well, there are people who know more than me. Absolutely. I do not claim to be an expert of all things. So
Well, I'm not an expert at all things either, but
I was just about to ask if anybody here is more familiar with Carrera Digital, because I know Mike and Don and me and some other and Nate and others use Scholastic Digital, but does anybody use I have Carrera Digital, but like I said, I don't use it enough to really be, intimately familiar with all the intricacies of the various software things. So, but I guess not.
yeah. So I mean, we're learning. I mean, I only went with it because it was the wider of the tracks, the widest of the plastic tracks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why I went with it. I didn't know one version from the other, and I like the lane center width more than the Scale Electric to me was a little narrow, but that's just me, but I don't know, but
I mean, you're not going to run 1/24th on a Scholastic track, that's for sure.
well, only one at a time.
Yeah. Without,
Only one at a
as long as you
time.
got borders too.
Yeah, oh yeah, well, yeah. Anyways, I'll let you gentlemen go. It was nice meeting all of you.
Joining in.
You guys take care. Have a good weekend. Have some fun racing if you are. And take care of yourselves. Greg, we'll talk later.
Yep.
All right, my friend. Take care, gentlemen. It was nice meeting you. Have a good
Great.
one.
See you, Mike.
Thank you.
And Dennis has just joined us. Dennis,
Oh, yeah. Hi,
do you
guys.
have any? Do you have any show and tell? Do you got any projects you're working on?
Well, the first project I got to work on is remembering that these things are on Fridays these days.
I mean, this is only the second one.
I know, and I forgot the last time, and I forgot again today.
Well, see, here's the thing. I don't see a whole lot of Aussies or Kiwis or anything here in the list, so maybe they're not going to get another chance at this if they don't show their faces.
Who was the guy who's just been on? I missed that.
That was Mike. He's a guy I've been helping online with digital stuff, and
Oh,
he's
cool.
big HO guy. Been running big HO
right.
for a
Yeah.
while.
All right, I've got a show and tell. I'm just going to fetch it. Hold on.
Okay.
Greg,
Yes. Go ahead.
quickly, while we're talking about proxy cars,
Mhm.
I don't know if you can see that.
You need to learn how to screen share, buddy.
I know I do. That is my goal, or it's a Mirage, but it's the usual Sunoco special. And that's on the Scale Electrics vintage proxy going on at the moment. That's
What'd
gone
you
up to
make
Newcastle.
What'd you make it out of?
It's a normal Scale Electrics Mirage.
No.
It's the ones I was telling you about, the early ones with the open.
So that's one of those. Show us the bottom then.
Hey,
Show us the bottom.
I can't. I can't get you one. I'll go and get one.
Oh, okay.
Hold on.
You took the picture of the top but not the bottom, and then bragged about the bottom.
Those were the ones they were molded in kind of almost like a Tupperware plastic, and everything just clipped into it, the motor and the rear axle.
We kind of talked about it after last week's recording stopped, and I mean, I know what he's talking about, but I don't see them very often. So
true.
Yeah. We'll take a look at that when he brings it back. Go ahead, Dennis.
Can you see that?
Barely. It's stealth mode. It's invisible.
Yeah. This is the new sideways Ford GTE or GT Le Mans or whatever they want to call it. That's just been released as a white kit, and so I decided as a white kit that the best way to paint it was matte black. And it came out. It's stunning. It really does look good in black. Just with a couple of little decals or stickers that are made up, and that's what it looks like. The shape is really, really nice. The nose is low. The whole car is extremely low and squat and flat. I haven't run it yet, but I think it's going to run really well. So yeah, that's those of you that like modern GT cars and like sideways stuff, this looks like it's going to be a really good one.
That does look good,
That's
Dennis.
hot. That's actually.
Thank you.
Could you get your verniers out, please? Measure the rear flat.
We want scale accuracy now.
Oh, yeah, it's about the same width across the rear as as the BMW M3 is, M6.
About 64, 65, is it?
What was that, John?
I think it's about 64, 65. That's what I'm assuming.
With?
Yeah, 64 across the outside of the rear tires, 61 across the outside of the fronts, and everything's nicely under the body.
That's a hot looking car, and it's not even blue and yellow.
Yeah, yeah.
It will be.
I wasn't sure but by the time I had it done and just put a little bit of color on it, I looked at this and I thought, man, that looks really, really cool. And not a difficult piece, not a difficult thing to put together. Sometimes the white kits have got so many different parts that they don't, that you don't know where they go and so on. There were only a couple of pieces and it was relatively easy to find out where they fit. The interesting part is how they did the top of the bodywork with that tunnel that goes through the, from the roof, this piece that comes over the top of the roof here and here, is that it's actually a piece that folds down and you go back in through the cavity for the rear lights, and there's one little tab that you have to melt in the back there. And then the others on top of the roof are all held in by the windows. When you put the windows in, then it holds everything down and keeps it nice and flat. So it's quite cleverly done and really nice.
I bet it'd look good in purple.
You guys,
Yeah.
I'm going to give you guys fair warning. The Analog Club that I'm with is starting a new series, and the only way to get the car only comes as a white kit. So we all got white kits. So I'm having to paint my car. It starts on Monday, and I have not yet painted my car. So don't come Wednesday if you don't want to see my piss ass garbage blue and yellow fantasy liveried LMP car.
What cars are they?
I don't remember what the brand and model car, but it's an open LMP.
LMP2 or something like that. Okay.
I'm not using the right word. There's no canopy over the driver. It's
Yeah.
an open cockpit LMP class. It'll be fun, but I almost wish I could just. I mean, I guess I could just glue it together and put some numbers on it and call it a white car, but I can't abide driving a white car when I could go ahead and hose it with blue and yellow paint.
Both blue and yellow, yeah.
It'll be an ugly blue and yellow car. So I'll show that off next week. You guys hold me to my promise of showing you my ugly ass painted car.
Well,
does anybody have some pretty cars we can look at other than Dennis's beautiful, beautiful car? Paul, do you got the underside of that car? All right. Let me spotlight you.
Oh yeah, now I remember them.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it had that casting at the rear to hold the motor in, and then it all clips in. And
is the cockpit separate?
Yeah.
No, that's it there. Yeah, it's separate, but that's still part of the motor.
So
that holds the motor in.
Yeah.
The motor clips into the cockpit, and the cockpit clips into the body.
Yeah, and
the
that's
front
it.
Axle and the guides clip into the body.
That is it.
Wow. And that's a Lamborghini, right? A Miura.
Yeah, that's a Lamborghini Miura, which is
nice.
But
you don't get that in
Mirage,
too many other cars, right? They did some.
They've done that. The Mirage, GT40, Porsche Longtail, 917 Longtail, and the Alpine, and then they've done the Javelin and the other Raider.
You don't get a whole
260.
Electra.
Yeah,
And the Electra, that's it, yeah.
But who else made a Miura?
They were made in France, and then the Russians copied them. They copied that and the Mirage.
Yeah, but has any other manufacturer done a Miura, a Lamborghini Miura?
Auto Art did a very nice one.
That's right.
Very nice one.
That's right.
Looked great, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So Paul, did that proxy pretty much require original everything? What was
Everything standard. It has to be the blue motor because they come with different color motors. And the stipulation was it was that blue motor. And that was it.
tires?
No, tires, you could either run, like these are original tires on this. They're still soft.
Wow.
But you can run with the original tires or you could get a reproduction pair. So, but I didn't bother gluing nothing on. I just stuck it all on there and just let it go. It went round my track all right.
How are you doing in that proxy?
The highest I've been is 15th.
Out of how many?
3 races so far.
How many people?
Oh, 20, I think it's 24 or 25.
That's not bad, middle of the pack.
Yeah. I'm just hoping it lasts.
Yeah. Things can change quite a bit throughout a proxy.
Oh, yes.
For
Oh,
sure.
yes.
I've got a half painted blue car for you for some inspiration if you want to see it, Craig.
Yes, please. Oh, nice. I can see where some yellow would go.
Yeah, straight through the middle.
You could take off the light blue and make it yellow and you'd be all perfect.
Yeah, I'd be a happy camper.
Oh, let's see. Yes, it's yeah.
This was a white kit that I'm doing up for the Porsche 997
proxy.
So what else are you left to do on it?
Well,
Interior.
I got to put the mirror, I got to put the tail lights on and gas caps under here and an interior, and then it's got to be polished and waxed and.
But the paint and the decals are done.
Sorry?
The paint and the decals are done.
Yes.
Yep. I mean, I'll allow it. It's a beautiful car.
Yeah.
So was that your birthday present, Dennis, that GT?
No, actually, that was just a present to myself.
I like them presents.
Yeah. Actually, the best birthday present that I bought myself was buying my wife a car last week. We've shared a car for years, full size car, and she's been on me to convert to electric, and I'm not quite ready for that yet because I have a nice Mercedes C300. So I bought her a little Kia electric vehicle, and she absolutely loves it. And so I have the Mercedes to myself now, and she's having enormous fun driving around in a little electric Kia Soul, and I just enjoying how she's enjoying the car. But she's not a great car person, but now all of a sudden she's got all these nice technical things and all sorts of funny little things on the dashboard that come up that tell her when it's recharging and when it's charging, and you could switch on the regenerative braking and you can turn that off, and you can, she's having fun with it. Yeah, so that was a good birthday present, actually.
You want to put a slot guide under it.
Yeah, it's about all it needs.
Speaking of gifts, the Revo Slot F40 made it to its destination of Kyle Daly, and he's enjoying that quite a bit. Apparently, he's got a wood track, and he's having a good time. So that's a good thing.
He's up in Canada somewhere, right?
Yes. I forget where. Oh, the funny thing was that, remember I tried to get it included in a pre-order that
Mm-hmm.
and his pre-order had already shipped, but he got the F40 before his pre-order got there. It's like, okay, whatever, shipping is shipping. Will it go back to normal after all this nonsense is done? Probably not.
Well, I mean, that's Canada Post, so you've got to think that maybe it's back to normal already.
Oh yeah.
Thing is, it's
only Chris. I got there quite quick.
It's only Chris that's on here today. There's no John, so we can say what we like about Canada Post, I guess.
And he agrees. Canada Post is
true. Everybody agrees.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, these
We-
days,
we
US
all-
Post is crap. So
The whole world envies the United States Post Office and what's been going on down there.
I thought the Royal Mail was best.
they've done pretty good for me. I get orders
Yeah.
from the Pendles almost faster than I get orders from the States.
Yeah, I mean, the U.S. Postal Service is, once we get rid of the legacy influence of the last 4 years, we'll be back to our normal excellent service. I hope.
But how do
It's a-
you
it's a-
get rid of Louis?
Yeah, we'll get around him. Don't worry, they'll find a way.
Knock on wood. All right, so we are at the top of the hour, and Portals was saying he wanted to do a demonstration on how to rescue things from forums. Is he still on? I don't think he's on, unless he changed his name. Oh, there he is. Hey, Portals, are you still there? Let me ask to unmute. And I guess he's not paying attention, so we'll swing back around to that. Don, I see your track is your background. I'm gonna focus on you just so we can get a better look at your track there. Nice big old Carrera digital track. Do you got any helpful information for Mike about doing wacky things with pit lanes?
Not really. I'm still learning how to use it myself, so
Fair enough.
I've played with it quite a bit, but I haven't been doing any racing except with myself and a pace car. So
Yeah, you really got to get a few guys in there to figure out where the problems are.
yeah,
Well, hopefully that happens for you sometime soon. Does anybody else have anything they want to ask about, show about, tell about, demonstrate? I will look in my list of things to talk about.
I got a question about tuning.
Sure.
So a couple weeks ago, I had the question about tuning cars, no magnet, and using rubber tire or urethane tires. And I've got a car that tips a lot. Let's see if I can.
The NASCAR.
That Monte Carlo, or the is that a Monte Carlo NASCAR, right? So this car tends to tip over and bicycle quite a lot. And I was going to enter it in the proxy, and I just could not get it to work around turns at all. It would bicycle, it would tip. Adding weight around, it just either made it worse or it just didn't work very well. So I was wondering if anybody had any tips on getting them to run good.
Well, I'll preempt the coming questions with what are you racing it on? What surface? And is that what the proxy is going to be primarily raced on?
I believe it's almost all wood. There may be a couple plastic tracks. The track that I'm tuning it on is a wood latex routed track.
Okay, so as close as you can get to what most of the tracks are in the proxy anyways.
Yeah, we're running mostly rubber tire, NSR rubber tires, but we run Paul Gauge or Yellow Dog tires every now and then.
And which, so that car has NSR rubber on the rear?
This one actually has super tire Yellow Dogs.
And it's tipping on those?
Yes.
Wow.
Is that what the proxy is calling out, or the proxy is allowing multiple tire types?
I think the proxy this year is Paul Gauge urethanes, but I didn't have any Paul Gauge urethanes for this car. And I was trying to use same type of tire, urethane, to try to tune it.
Can show me the bottom of your, can we see the rear tires from the bottom? Okay, now you gotta, well, you could certainly widen the rear and the front track quite a bit.
Yeah, move them outwards.
Yeah, not much actually.
No, the last picture sort of screwed me up there. Okay.
Yeah, no. Okay.
You already trued them and everything, right?
Yes, they're trued.
Yeah, and there's a good radius on the shoulders, so that's not an issue.
Front tires are a bit big.
I mean,
Not
I
like
think
It's not wobbling,
tires
is it?
now?
Does it sit true on a flat block?
As good as it can. It does sit on the 4 tires,
Yeah.
even, but the body float is not there at all because it's more like a clam shell type thing that's around the chassis.
Can you not take a file and take a little bit off of the sills of the chassis?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, I would make it move around there. I would make sure that the front end is as low as you can get it, that you've got the front axle set up as high as possible so that it guides as deep as it will go. I would probably coat the front tires with nail varnish.
Yeah.
And then I would start adding weight to the back of the car.
What about sanding the front tires down a little bit as well?
Oh
Reduce
yeah,
the,
if you need to do that, I see that it had those little slot car corner axle blocks in there to adjust the front axle. So if you need to move that down, if you need to move the axle upwards even more to get the guide all the way down in the slot, I would do that. That piece of weight in the middle of the car, I would take that right out. Because if you're tipping, it means that the rear end of the car is not sliding, and so I would do that. I would also check the clearance all the way through and make sure that you've got minimum clearance or as close to the minimum clearance as you want to go, so that you're not fighting against a clearance issue with oversized tires, because that, a high center of gravity is one reason why it'll tip. The rest of the reason why it'll tip is because you've got too much traction for that center of gravity. So you need to get it down.
Do you have a setup block that you could put it on and show me or show us?
Yeah, I do. I'll get my aluminum setup block. I was just mainly wondering about the tipping, like it bicycles around turns where the guide comes at, like almost comes out of the slot, it loses power, then it falls right back into the slot.
Well, that's why I want to see the setup block to see if the chassis tilts.
All right. Good stuff. I look forward to that.
Yeah,
This is like real-time tuning.
real-time tuning. Yeah, why not?
if in doubt, get a big hammer.
All right, John's showing off something. Let me spotlight John. You got a new sideways there, John? You're
That was
muted.
me. Oh. John Weber.
There you go. I'm not sure we can hear you though. Yeah, we
No,
can't hear
can't
you.
hear
I
you.
don't think your microphone's actually working, John. You're gonna have to use sign language. But he's got a new sideways. What is that?
It's the 320. Yeah, the 320 Group 5, the art car.
The art
Nice.
car, yeah, that's a
Mhm.
nice looking car.
They are. And those 320s run well. They run better than one would expect for that kind of little high car.
I was gonna say it's kind of blocky and high.
Yeah, but they run very well. They're probably they run almost as good as the M1s do.
Yeah.
Or the Capris.
That's pretty
I've
much
got the
standard
wood style
sideways
one.
configuration these days, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the Group 5 cars, that's their standard configuration.
Okay. Oh, looks
All
like
right.
Lance got his thing here.
Lance has got his thing up.
Go ahead,
Let's have a
Lance.
look. Let's get in close on Lance.
Okay, now push. I want to see the front axle. Put your finger in front of one of the front wheels on the chassis, on the corner of the chassis, and just press down on either side and see if, okay, press down on that side. Okay, see how the rear tire on your side comes up?
Yeah.
Okay, that means there is too much, the grub screw on the front tire closest to me.
At the top.
At
Yeah.
the top front grub screw, you need to screw that in so that when you push your fingers down on each corner, the opposite rear tire does not come off the ground. So right now, when it's going through a corner, the front, just like you were doing it, the left front tire comes up.
It's giving way. Yeah,
The
it's
right
giving way
rear
as the car
tire
rolls
comes
into
off
the
the
turn.
ground and it tips out of the track.
Now the right-hand side is not as bad. You see,
Yeah.
that side's not as bad. So the screw on that side is close to where it needs to be. Maybe a little more in, but the one on the left side needs to go in quite a ways.
Yeah. Now you can, I mean, you can always push down hard enough to make the chassis flex, but with that little amount, when you push down on the front of the chassis, you could see the front wheels not supporting that chassis. It's rising up in the slot and lifting the right rear.
You could probably press down right on top of the axle block and get the same effect.
Yeah.
Actually, no.
Is that on a ride bike, Neil?
That'll make, yeah. So get your wrench out and adjust the front, both left and right front wheels tires, so that when you push down, the opposite rear tire does not come off the ground. And then once you've got the tops done, you can go back underneath and do the bottom ones if you want. You can snug those up just so that the axle spins freely. To be honest with you, the bottom grub screws are basically a waste of time. If the car is on the track, the axle's always up. So try that. Don't do anything else that we've told you until you try that. Try that. I'm convinced that'll make a big difference, and then we can go from there.
Okay, I'll try that. Just for reference, they're on that proxy, the DeVol's NASCAR proxy. These Winston Cup cars, they're allowed to have, the Monte Carlo has a real thin axle holder, right? It's like a loop. And you're allowed to reinforce that with the blocks, but you're not allowed to adjust the blocks. So that's just a reference for the proxy.
What do you mean you're not allowed to adjust the blocks?
The axle has to be in the stock configuration or the stock location. You can reinforce it, but you can't move it. So what I did is I just glued those axle blocks and the loops are still there to hold the axle.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in the original position. In a proxy, cars get wrecked a lot. So those thin loops I figured would break. And I reinforced it with just those axle blocks.
Okay, so you're telling me you can't adjust the grub screws?
Well, you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to in the proxy.
The front axle is required to have as much play, vertical play, as the original loops allow them to have.
Mm-hmm.
The proxy is a kind of like the front end kind of has to be stopped.
I mean, yeah, but if you're allowing stiffening, okay.
If that's the case, what you can do is you can put a slightly larger diameter set of front tires on them, which will lift the axle to the top of the loops. And then sort of, if you have a truer, you can chew a little bit, retest it a little bit, more, test it a little bit. I don't know how they would, like, how would they know that? Like, leave the bottom ones out, which will give you all kinds of downward motion, and just set the top ones.
Well, the original loops from the chassis is still there, so it doesn't have a whole lot of float. I just reinforced it with the block.
Okay.
All right. So then if it's moving around, does that mean that the chassis itself is not flat?
It could be.
If the chassis is twisted, but you're getting different amounts of movement left to right, then the chassis itself is probably not flat.
You're assuming that both grub screws are in the same position, Dennis.
No, but if there's no grub screws in there at all, Chris.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's what Lance is saying, that there's no grub screws, or certainly for a proxy entry, there wouldn't be. But did I hear you saying you decided not to enter?
Yeah, I didn't enter the car. I
All right,
didn't enter the
so-
car because it tipped so much.
All right, so now we can
Close me
play. So
down.
now you can play with the car, and now you can put the set screws in at the top, and try it out, and that'll teach you for the next time. Because the other way to do that, if you're allowed to use those axle blocks to reinforce everything, is you don't glue them in until you've decided exactly how high they need to be, and sanded them as in where you need them, so that you take the control of the axle away from the chassis and put the control of the axle into the block. Nobody's going to know that, of course, because you sand the height until you get it the way you want it. But quite honestly, based on what I've done with those cars, I think, glazing the front tires or coating the front tires, and then putting the weight right at the back of the car will probably help quite a lot as well.
All right.
Not-
Thanks a lot. I'll try that.
No, not too much weight though. On urethane tires, they don't like a very heavy car.
Yeah, the lighter the better.
And the tips as well, this Ford Mustang.
Oh, now his microphone's working. Hold on. You're gonna have to speak up, John. Your microphone is not very loud. Or working at all. That's a Scalextric, right? That looks like a Scalextric.
Le Mans Miniatures.
That's
Oh,
Le Mans,
oh, there-
that's
I
Le
see
Mans
the logo.
miniatures.
Yeah, my bad.
Absolutely gorgeous cars. Not terribly good slot cars, but gorgeous cars.
I mean, that's what their marketing is, right? Is pretty, not good working.
No, save your money, don't swap it one.
All right. Anybody else got anything? Should I dip
s-
into my topic list?
I saw Nate Jones trying to get something up there, and I don't know that we've given him.
Yeah,
Oh, what you got, Nate?
I was just going to mention this Ford Mustang has the same problem with the tipping. So I noticed it has that same kind of chassis where it has, I don't know if that makes a difference, but it's probably, I'll have to check out the clearance here and how it's,
Yeah, you can, if it's too high on the front, if you unclick your front braid circle, and Scalextric wraps the braid right around that block, you can unravel it, which will lower the front end and let the guide sit in, or take one loop off, and that'll let the guide sit in the track a little bit better.
okay.
Those invariably, if you put it, on a track, the front ends of those are invariably off the ground.
So
Yeah.
Get some
I've
racing
been doing
cars,
this
some
Audi,
hold on.
this A8, this thing is crazy. It's incredibly quiet and really fast, really smooth, great traction. And my son has been beating me every race, no matter what car I can try against it. So I bought this one. It's the same chassis, same wheelbase, the Golf Lotus. So I'm hoping that those two cars will run together competitively.
I mean, it's since are you taking the magnet out for his car too?
Oh yeah, both of them are gonna. This one has no magnet and it runs awesome. It's really fast.
Have you replaced tires yet?
No, I just
So you're basically, it's a gamble of how good those tires happen to be. When those got picked out of the massive bin of tires.
I think I sanded them a little bit, but
Just take the rear wheels off it.
That's
Put it on
right.
yours.
You can do all kinds of things, but basically what I do, the first thing I do with an out of the box Scalextric car is I fold the braids down like Chris was talking. So the ones that are folded upwards, I fold them back so that all the braids are pointing back towards the back of the car. And then I kind of bring them in and give them a little twist so that they ride the rails rather than the track. And then pull the magnet out, and then see how good the tires are. Most of the time, the next step is sanding the tires on my tire razor, or if you've got a steady hand, you can do it on some sandpaper on the track. Avoid doing it with a chip in, preferably using, take the chip out, do it in analog so you're not going to potentially burn out a chip. And then just try to get them as smooth and round as you can. And then you can start doing things like drop a little a single drop of 3-in-1 on each tire and rub it around and let it soak in. It'll kind of rejuvenate some of the tires a little bit. But if his is too good, then don't do those things to his.
Yeah. Right.
Another trick you might do is before you sand the tires down, sand the hub center, because sometimes they're not exactly straight or level. So if
Yeah,
you
I've
get
done
that
that,
level, put the tire on, then you've got a level playing field to start off sanding
Right.
the tires.
Yeah, I usually do that, get the burrs off of it right away first.
Yeah.
Flashing. Yeah.
Take it right back. If it's painted, if you take it back so it goes back to the plastic, you know it's level.
Yeah.
There's so much you can do.
While I walked away, did you guys finish talking about braids? Because I've got a Scalex car I was going to just show, I think, what Chris was talking about.
Yeah, go ahead. I think that'll be good.
All right, so can you see that? There's a Scalex car with a normal braid at the front.
Mhm.
And then what I normally do is I use a modeling knife and I'll fold the top of the braid forward like that. And then this piece, which is underneath it, you fold that back, right? And then you fold that piece back on top of it like that, right? These braids are a little shoddy because they've been used already. And that'll give you a significantly lower profile on the braid right there. And that allows the guide to sit deeper into the slot.
Seems counterintuitive that it would do that because you'd think it would be thicker the normal way. Huh.
Well,
I mean, the other reason to do that, honestly, is that the forward-facing braid will snag on the joins of the track.
Oh yeah, I've seen
will
that.
turn into a rat's nest and be useless.
Yeah, and when they're like this, they work better. Right.
Huh. I'll have to do that to all my cars. That's really good tip.
The other thing is the twist. Do you want to show the twist, Dennis, or do you want me to show the twist?
If you're running on Scalex track, then you need to make sure that the braids are quite close together and that they're twisted up on the inside. And I don't have the right things here, but if you look at the back of the braid, it needs to be twisted up this way so that the inside edges are right next to the braid and almost going down into the slot.
Oh, yeah.
Right. This is called the Greg Gaub position, and it's got nothing to do with any kind of procreation or anything like that.
Aww.
It's just a very sensible way of setting braid for Scalex track where you just maximize your chances of getting good contact because the rail forms the side of the slot. So the closer you get them in and turned up on the inside, the better the contact you get. Correct, Greg?
That is absolutely it, and you demonstrated it perfectly.
The,
And I'll say it one more time. Do not ever do this for any other kind of track. It only is good for sport or classic electric.
Yeah, because I mean, Carrera track, the very first thing you want to do is to move them apart.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want them in that close. You want them further apart, and it doesn't really help you much to turn the insides up. You can just make sure that they're flat, so that you're getting maximum contact.
Yeah, whatever track you're riding on, you want to figure out the best way to form the braids to get the best contact with whatever the power surface is, whether it's tape or braid, recessed braid, raised rail like on Carrera or Ninco, or no slot liner like on Scalextric. Every track is going to need a slightly different braid setup, but the most different braid setup is going to be between Scalextric, Classic, and Sport versus pretty much everything else on the planet.
And he also don't do your son's car.
Yeah,
Leave
don't do
his
that for his
standard.
car. Or show him how to do it and make him do it and say, anytime his car is not performing, say, check your braids, and he'll go,
Yep.
okay. And he'll
That's
do
the right way.
Yep.
That's the right way.
Yeah, it makes a huge performance difference for sport track. Just if you start getting in with a club or something like half of us end up doing anyways, just don't do that for any other kind of track.
Another thing, Nate.
Yeah.
Another thing is get an old toothbrush
Oh,
and
yeah.
some lighter fuel and pour it onto the braids after your race and brush it downwards from front to back and clean the braids and keep them all nice.
Okay.
Clean braids are good.
There
And
you
since
go.
we're on the topic of
Already
things
learned a
you
bunch of
do
stuff.
as a electric digital user, if you have not already gotten a bottle of Inox MX3, you absolutely should put that in your next order. And
Yeah, I did order that. I did order a bottle of that.
excellent. You are in good shape. All right. Anything else? Any other questions? Nate, do you have any other questions? Anybody else got any questions? Should I dig up a topic? Well, we got half an hour left. Go ahead, Neil.
I have a question about painting track.
Okay.
You guys have talked about it, I guess, several times, and you talked about getting cheap paint, flat or matte. I don't know if there's a difference between flat or matte. So you basically just go and look on the shelf. Doesn't matter what the brand is, but whatever's the cheapest. Is that correct?
Usually you want to go with your house brand paint, whatever their cheapest house brand paint is. Don't be getting Glidden or whatever. Just get the cheapest bottom shelf paint that they've got. And then if they don't have matte for whatever reason, matte, flat, same diff. If they don't have that, then satin, but don't get gloss.
Yeah.
Right.
You can, if you go to Home Depot or places like that, they've often got a section where they've already mixed paint for people that they didn't like it. So if you can get you get lucky, you might get a medium gray or some sort of a gray thing that somebody wanted, and it's like a quarter of the price. And yes, the cheaper latex paints or emulsion paints, as they're known in the UK, have a higher latex content. So they'll stick great to your track. What type of track is this, Neil?
I have a Carrera track.
Perfect. Okay, so it's a styrene track, so latex is going to stick like a good thing on it, and it's going to make it look a billion times better.
And run a billion times better.
I was just
I'm
check
hoping.
the mist tints. Always check the mist tints. Yep.
Well, that was my next question, is about color.
Whatever color you like.
Well, I don't like the black. I definitely want to go to some shade of gray, I guess.
Pick a gray and away you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if they have like two shades of gray, you can paint the whole track in one and then use the other gray to sort of put some repair patches on the, you can go nuts.
Yeah, and a pint is more than enough for most home tracks. It takes remarkably little paint to paint most tracks.
Yeah.
Do I have to prime it first, or?
Nope.
No, clean it. I mean, make sure it's not all greasy or anything.
Yeah.
But otherwise,
And it gets rid of those really hideous looking borders.
Well, I don't use those borders anyway. I made my own.
Okay.
Out of MDF.
Yeah, perfect. So, paint the MDF and the cars are not going to know any difference because they're running on latex paint. So they're not going to know what's underneath them. So MDF and the styrene will play along just perfectly.
Any suggestions on the rails?
You can buy some 1/4 inch wide masking tape from most paint shops. And it's sort of like a flexible masking tape, and you can just run around with the masking tape. If you do get any little bits underneath, latex won't stick to the
stainless steel.
So you can rub any little bits off with your fingernail, or put a spare car on and run some laps, and the braid, if there's little tiny bits, will pull all the bits off.
What about the connection of the rails? You try soldering them together?
No. Do you have any power taps underneath?
I do. I have 6.
And do you have a power issue?
No.
So there you go.
There you go. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
And what are you using for a power supply?
I'm using the stock power supply right now.
Okay, well, at some point, you will invest in a better power supply, and with considerably more amps, and that will really help out your track a whole ton.
Neil, are you doing digital or analog?
Well, I could do both.
Okay.
Um,
So yeah, having a good power supply is always a good thing. Even if
Especially if you're going to run digital when you're running multiple cars.
yeah, I mean, even with Carrera, the bottleneck is going to be the control unit. Most digital systems, the bottleneck is going to be the control unit, but it's got a pretty good amp capacity. So if you're giving it the amps it needs, it should be okay. And
Yeah, well, it only takes the amps that it wants, right?
it only takes the amps that it wants, but if you have a short or if you have a lot
Oh yeah, if you have a short, it's going to want lots of amps. Yeah.
Well, for example, if you have 6 124 cars, Carrera specifically does not support 6 124 cars because it's that many 124 cars pulls more than the amps that the CU provides.
Yep.
But most
18
people
volts,
get around
yeah,
that somehow. But yeah, being able to adjust amps and volts always a good thing. I wanted to kind of throw my personal advice on the painting. What I did when I painted the Scalextric track. Again, people say sport doesn't take paint. Worked fine for me. Cheap latex paint. I just took some regular old painter's blue tape and just kind of messily did strips of tape to cover the rails, and then just a nice clean crafting blade and just use the slot between the rail and the track to just cut off the excess, and then just paint rollered all over the whole thing, and then pulled the tape up. It was fine.
Perfect,
I didn't care about a little bit of bleed through.
Yeah.
No big deal.
How difficult it is to change the power supply?
For Carrera, because it has that weird connector, I would just cut off the connector and then wire it to your power supply. It's not hard.
No, that should be easy enough.
Yeah. How do you switch between analog and digital?
I use the
You got the tech slots thing?
yes, the tech slots. I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay, so in your case, it's basically all digital because it's using the chip the lane concept, I believe.
Correct.
You've only got the one power supply to worry about.
Correct.
Just cut off the plug.
And for me, because some of you might not know, but I don't race. I don't have any, friends that are into slot cars, so it's just me. And that tech slot thing was great because I have a lot of cars that I purchased that are analog, only because I like the car.
Yeah.
And now I get, now I can use them all.
Mhm.
So it's nice.
I mean, that's pretty much the main reason that I made my track analog compatible, is so that I didn't have to chip every dang car I wanted to drive around for the fun of it.
Correct. Yeah. I mean,
But I can
yeah,
also have analog racing, so that's always nice too.
well, that's, yeah. I can't wait for that to happen. It'll happen down the road, I'm sure. But right now it's just me, and right now I'm not even using the track because I'm still in the process of figuring out my landscaping and stuff like that. So and was it Nate? I have changed my track 6 times now. So it's always evolving, and I even landscape it and then I still tear it apart.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
I can see myself doing that too.
I mean, if you can get some friends over or whatever the case may be, some other people with controllers in their hands, you'll find some other things that.
oh, I'm sure, yes. But I can't wait to paint the track. You say it's going to be a big difference, though, right?
Oh, in every way, it'll look better. It'll perform better. If you're doing non-magnets, it's a whole nother ball game.
Yeah, I do it both ways, so it's
Yeah.
It
Painted
also-
Carrera track is the closest thing to a routed track you're going to get with sectional track.
The other bonus that's that's there, but not a huge thing, is that Carrera being styrene can develop a static charge, which holds dust.
Ah.
As soon as you put latex paint on it, you lose that. So any dust just blows off or comes off really easy. It's much easier to keep your track cleaner.
Oh, that'd be a godsend.
Yeah, and it looks so much cooler.
Especially
Can't
once
wait.
you got some, once you get it painted up and then you run your cars around for several hundred laps, then you get that blue groove and it just looks.
What would be the best type of tire to use if I stick to one tire
You
after
pretty much
painting
do
it?
anything on that.
Urethanes will be great on that. You can buy Paul gauge urethanes or Yellow Dogs, or that's the easiest to stick on and true. And with a latex surface coupled with a true urethane tire, you're gonna it's gonna be a whole new world. You're not gonna believe how quick these cars go.
Cool.
And I
Can't
love
wait.
urethane is super easy to true, so there's that plus too.
That was my other question, because it's very confusing between, I think I had, well, there's some tires that are really difficult to put on a machine.
Yeah.
Very difficult.
Silicone.
Is it silicone? That's probably it, yeah.
Silicones and some types of rubber are, they take some patience and they take a bit of practice.
Yeah.
Urethanes are like, if you can't true a urethane tire, you just quit the whole hobby.
That's it. You shouldn't be doing it.
Shouldn't be doing it. I think that's a good way to say it. They're the easiest tire to true of any.
I appreciate the help, and just listening to you guys, the knowledge is unbelievable.
Well, we're going to get a little bit more knowledge because Portals is ready to do his demonstration. So if you have, forums go through changes, and in this particular instance, Slot Forum International, slotforum.com, is looking ahead to a forum change of epic proportions, presumably a completely new forum software. So if you're worried that you're going to lose important information, I would recommend that you pay attention to this next presentation. Portals, are you ready to go?
Hi, Greg. Yes, I'll make this relatively quick because it's getting quite late. What I need to do is to share my screen. I'm using a couple of monitors, so I'll have to drag things between them. But I'm going to share my screen now, Greg. I don't know if you need to accept it.
All right, Sandcastle.
Okay, so let's start off with the spreadsheet. So does someone want to volunteer? Actually, let me just open up a web page.
I like the Sandcastle better than spreadsheets.
Yeah, so let's go to, okay, let's take a step back. This was the thread that Greg gave quite a good introduction about. The forum are migrating, they're not upgrading, they're migrating, so we're moving over to a new platform which has implications with different database schemas and whatever. I think the key concern is there's a lot of people with a lot of information, content, pictures, and very sound advice that's on this forum, and if anything happened during the migration and this got lost, it would be a bit of a tragedy. So if I just go to the homepage, does somebody want to pick a topic, and I will try and download it right now? Or does somebody have a favorite? Does somebody have a favorite? Sorry, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, cars bought in 21.
Which?
Third one down.
Third one down, right? Okay. So this has got 21 pages in it. So I imagine it would take maybe 3-4 minutes to download, and maybe there'll be around 50 to 100 megabytes. So let me click through on it. So what I need to do is, first of all, I'm going to take a name of the topic, so we have a reference. I have a spreadsheet here. So I shall paste in the topic name. Let me go back to the topic, and now I'm going to cut and paste the URL back into the spreadsheet. Now, what I need to do is to cut and paste the formula from here back down here and paste it in. Now, what you can see here is the URL that I need to put into the software that I have, and all essentially it does is it passes in my user ID and password. That's obviously not my right password, and it reformulates a URL in a basic HTTP authentication. But because we're using HTTPS, the data is encrypted, so you can't see this over the internet, but you can unfortunately see it locally in all the log files. I've put my username and password up here, so I can change the password at any time to gobbledygook, and you can see that it updates the script. So the script just has some very kind of basic formula behind it to formulate what I need. So that's the setup. That's all it's required, is you just need these two pieces of information, the URL and the topic name, and the rest of it's generated automatically. This stuff you don't need to worry about too much. It's simply a cut and paste. So what I do now is I go and I open up a piece of software, which I've opened up in a different page, but I will paste it over. I will pull it over when it's safe to do. Okay, so it's this piece of software. It's free to download. It's safe to download. It does take a little bit of getting used to, but I'll give you a very, very quick overview here of how to download things. And please, this doesn't just relate to Slot Forum, it relates really to any internet website. If you change filters, you can pretty much get this to do what you want. But it does take a bit of trial and error, and you have to be quite careful, because if you misform some of your syntax, you can end up trying to download the whole internet to your hard drive. And I'm not kidding. So let's just move through this. So we want to call this Car Sport in 2021. So I will copy that and paste that into my project name. I will create a new project category called Zoom Test. And I will dump it into a folder in the root of my C drive called C Zoom. Okay, so I need to retype that, because I changed the path. Anyway, so this is the name of the topic. This will become clear what the category name is and what the path is later. So I click on Next. Now this is one of the key stages. What I have to do is to type in, or rather cut and paste. The reason the spreadsheet does it for me is this particular URL. Now you'll notice here that it has the show topic ID. And if I go back to the web page, you can see the topic ID is 265 at entry. So they can see this is it here. Now, just very briefly, what the spreadsheet does is there are various formula behind it. It's just kind of junk up here. And what it does is it strips down the various bits and pieces we have to give us information that we need. The key information we need to put into the software to HTTP track is this and this. It sounds complicated, but it's actually really not. Once you put the information in the spreadsheet, it's 2 or 3 cut and pastes, and you're pretty much there. So you type the URL in there, making sure it's the correct URL, and now you set options. Now there are 3 things you have to do here. 1, you have to go into scan rules. I have to go back to my spreadsheet, and I have to take this string, which again has just been generated via this formula. And I've done it here for plain text because the spreadsheet was messing me about. Okay. The laptop hasn't rebooted in days, and that's why it's having memory problems and not cutting and pasting properly. So all I've done here is take the default and add in this particular string with the post number in it. So let me OK that. This is the post number we want to take, the one that was suggested. And I set the options and I put that under scan rules, and I'll leave the rest of it as default. That takes what we need. Browser ID. This is the second page that we need to worry about. It's not much of a worry. We just pick MSIE Windows 94. What this is the HTTP user agent environment variable. And what that does is it tells the web server that I'm actually using Microsoft Internet Explorer 4 on Windows 98. What it doesn't like is if it finds that you're using something slightly shady. So stick to something that's popular. And the final one, we need to change is links. And there are 2 boxes here. You can rewatch this back in the video. You can read the help files. It's exactly what we do, but they help with the process. And I click OK. Now that's me done. So all I did cut and paste 2 fields into a spreadsheet. It generates the links. I then take the pertinent links, cut them in here, cut and paste them in here, change the browser ID to be a recognizable, acceptable browser, add that field, and change these 2 checkboxes. And I click OK, and I click Next, and I'm now going to execute that. Now we can see it's doing stuff.
That's basically a spidering program that you're telling it.
It's excuse me, it spiders, then it scrapes, and then it writes it locally. And what it does is it's actually very clever. It rewrites the URLs so that anything stored locally, the URL, I'll show you this in a second, is rewritten locally. Anything on the web stays as a web. It acts like quite a complex reverse proxy in the way that it manages to rewrite the URLs. So we can see it's running now, so it shouldn't take that much longer because it wasn't a big thread, and I don't actually know how image heavy it was, but one of the key things to notice here is I've slowed everything down here. There are settings that you can be quite aggressive with how quickly you try to download stuff, but we don't want to upset anybody. We don't want to be saturating bandwidth or draw attention to ourselves via ISP or anything. So we're doing this very, very leisurely. I imagine it will finish pretty soon based on the size of the thread. So let's just check the original thread again. How many posts were there in it? Not that many.
Yeah,
Not that many.
And unfortunately, didn't Slotform used to have a save page feature where you could just go to a thread and save the whole thread to a local PDF or something like that? I remember that being a feature, but it doesn't seem to be there anymore. So if you want to save a thread, you're gonna have to use a spider program like this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the problem with saving anything as PDFs is it's not HTML. What this generates is purely HTML, and you can navigate locally between the pages. This is actually pretty slow. What I also find is I can run this job 3 times, and it'll execute between 30 seconds and 5 minutes. So I think it depends on a lot of variables to do with the infrastructure that sits, between the queries I'm making, and they get slightly suspicious thing. The technology they have these days is they're looking for people who, they're trying to steal the content or try to spam them or DDoS them or whatever. So I'm just quite glad that they haven't stopped this, to be honest, because it's the only way that I find that you can actually grab this information and get it looking like the real website. So again, if this doesn't download in a second, I'll tell you what, let me just stop. I'll leave this open in the background, and I'll show you one that Will Faris downloaded earlier.
I was gonna say, you need to share what the name of that program is.
Yeah, it's called HTT Track, TRACK. Easily found, easily downloadable. When you go into the download screen, click the one that's got the green highlight on the box. That's the easiest to install for Windows. So just to finish this off then, so here's one I downloaded earlier. So there's a thread that has, I think, over 100 pages called F1 General Conversation on Slot Forum. Anybody who's familiar is about to see this thread. So anyway, let me just check if that has finished or not. No, it's still going. I'll finish shortly. Let's just check the size of this folder. So this is what it's downloaded. This is the bandwidth that's used as the web server. It's 30 meg, which is pretty much nothing. So I run index.html, and I have this. Now this shows me all the threads that I've downloaded. Because this is a demo, I've just downloaded the one thread. So I click through it, and it takes me to it.
Nice.
Now look up here. This is the local address, it's not a web address. Now look here. One thing that's annoying is, yes, you do get this pop-up. I'll show you that in a second. But if I click over 2 and you look down here, you see the address is local. You see the address is local, so I can click on 3. The address is local. So quite a long story short, it downloads the entire thread as it looks, with everything intact. All your external links work, pretty much everything works with the limited testing that I've done. So just to go back to the reason of doing this, if you've got content, and I think we all have content that exists on Slot Forum that doesn't exist anywhere else, investing time taking pictures and uploading them and putting copy around that, it would be a real shame if anything did happen. So if you're slightly paranoid, this is and it's by far the easiest method and robust method to download something that actually looks and is usable, on your local drive.
Yeah,
Different
I
sites
mean,
that would disappear.
that's the biggest thing, is that it's not just spidering and downloading, it's translating so that it's functional as a local page rather than just copying everything.
Yeah, it's smart enough to do URL rewrites on LM links that are local. Yeah, so it's a really nice piece of software. It's a bit of a nightmare to get your head around, even if you're used to using web tools. But it's well worth having a look at. As I said, you saw what I did there. It doesn't really take much technical knowledge to do that. If you can cut and paste, you can read, you can do it.
Did you share, or are you going to share that spreadsheet that has the calculations in there for?
Yeah. I can share that. If anybody wants to PM me, or I'm not sure if I can attach the post.
I mean, if you haven't already posted this on Slot Forum somewhere, please do.
It is, yeah, I have posted this on. Now, see if I go here.
Yep.
It takes me straight to the internet.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I don't even have to mess about with that. So this forum here.
Yep.
So I think the reason this might benefit a lot of people is there's quite a lot of the guys, I believe, even just from reading this thread, who've got a shed load of content, shed load of posts. They might have a topic that has just, let's say, 100 pages. And that 100 pages might have a lot of content, and it might have a lot of photographs that don't exist anywhere else. So how can you grab that and store it, even if you're on posterity, even if you weren't, slightly worried about the forum upgrade might break stuff, as we all know it's happened before. And also we all know forums that have disappeared before. Going back to early 2000s, I was quite an active member in the O2 XDAI2, if anybody remembers the old compact iPads, as they were called. O2 in the UK came out with one. It was a mobile phone and a PDA. It was basically an iPhone 10 years before its time. And that forum had a shed load of information, and it disappeared overnight or upgraded. It was never seen again. So I do, that's one of the reasons that I think this is useful, and people should be in control of their own information, their own content, if you like. So so this thread here, I have kind of mentioned what's to be done. This is getting a bit kind of lengthy now, so just very quickly. So this is finished now. So I'm going to pull this down using the log file, because you can see my password in the log file. So let me mask that, and then I'll just show you what it's done very, very quickly. And you can see pretty much. So I've hidden what I need to hide. So you can see it took 5 minutes in the end. It downloaded about 70 meg worth of data, which is not a lot. Probably sounds a bit right. There's a few pictures on it. Let's go back up. I'm going to pull that back again. And then I can go straight now to browse the website. So I just downloaded CarSpot in 2021. So here we go. Right, again, that pop-up is annoying. I can show you actually what the problem is with this. I just need to spend some time on it. If you inspect it, it's a cookie. You've probably all seen this before.
Well, hey, I would say go ahead and share this video on that thread. Say skip to whatever
This here,
quarter, whatever.
That particular cookie is the reason you get this now the screen. I haven't found the way to suppress it yet, but I will. So let me go to 3. There we go. It's perfect. The only thing you can't do is to type and paste you could think of page numbers up here before, so you could type the page number in if you had a big idea. So you can't do that. So that's downside. But apart from that, yeah, I'll take that.
I know how URLs work, and even I don't do that.
Oh, I do it all the time, especially on Amazon. You buy something and there's 5,000 hits, and you want the cheapest one, but the cheapest one are just cables and plugs. Yeah, go to about 300 or 350, and then you start to get real cheap ones.
Well, thank you very much for that demonstration and instructional information. Does anybody have any questions for him, or was that just kind of information blast? you might have to rewind and rewind and rewind and rewind, but
Don't be intimidated. It's actually really straightforward. Just going to the page, cutting and pasting in the topic, cutting and pasting in the URL. The spreadsheet will do the rest. You go into the software, you have 3 pages to edit. Next, finish.
yeah.
Perfect.
If you
I
if
know
you
Paul,
do me
I
a
know
favor
Paul's
and-
gonna get started as soon as we're done.
Yeah. If you could do me a favor and paste a URL of some sort to that software so that I can more easily put that into the description of the video.
Yeah, I'll do that now.
That'd be super nice.
I can't even bring pictures up on my laptop, let alone do that.
Yeah. It's kudos to the guys that wrote the software. Do you know what I mean? It's open source software, so you know, we're standing this old shoulder of giants.
Yeah. So yeah, if you've got some content that you've worked hard on that you don't want to see disappear because of some forum as being stupid, then yeah, do that. And I'll put the link in the description. So if you're watching this video at a later date, you should be able to click a link in the description to download that software and then follow that guide on how to do that. We're running down for the last few minutes. Does anybody have any last minute show and tell or questions or anything they want to circle back on? Or
I did have a question. Does anybody know how to run analog on the Arc Pro?
yep, there's a little switch on the side. Flip it.
Yeah, but I did that. But then what do I do with the controller, the wireless controller? How do I choose the car and everything?
So any car you put on the lane will go.
Oh, right.
Red
Yeah.
controls the I think the closest lane, and green controls the next lane. The other ones don't have any function.
Oh, that must be what it was then,
Yeah.
because I tried it and it didn't work, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Didn't
any
try those
controller,
controllers.
yeah, any car in the red lane essentially will go when you pull the red controller trigger, and same for green on the other
Yep.
lane. Even digital
Okay.
cars, most digital cars will go with some kind of analog power. So, but yeah, just remember that you flip that switch the next time you try to race digital, because then
Yeah.
it'll be even more confusing. For some reason, apparently, I've had a few people say, "What's wrong with my Arc Pro?" Somehow they're coming shipped in analog mode, which is super confusing for people who are trying to race it in digital mode, because that's what they bought.
Yeah.
And then they realize that there's a switch on the side, and they flip it and things work correctly.
I guess it's possible you could bump it and flip the position, but
In the package?
no, I mean, once you take it out and you're messing with it.
Yeah, it's possible that when they were putting it together that they accidentally flipped that switch. It should be labeled. The little analog digital label would be super.
Which it
good.
is.
But yeah, green and red, that's all you got. You can of course pair any controller with green and red 1 and 2, and you know,
Yeah.
get a slotted SCP3. You can use it for that mode as well. Is that
The other thing you said it was interesting was the pit lane being able to slow the cars down. You'd have to get a sensor for that, or?
Yeah, unfortunately, one of the things with Scalextric Digital is consistency from base to base to base to base. And there was never any sensors included with Scalextric Digital, but it was an aftermarket third party created a sensor. What they did is they took the pit lane game, which is basically just a little tower with lights on it, and it had a sensor in there to detect the car, but all it did was turn the lights on or off. The car would pass over it and it would turn a light on or turn a light off. But then the hobbyist guys said, "Ooh, we can use that," and they basically grafted on a serial to USB communication to the computer, and so that became Pit Pro, which then tells the computer when a car crosses over that sensor. And so then the computer software is able to say, "Oh, car 1 is in the pit lane," and do things like slow it down or whatever the case may be. Hopefully, excuse me, somebody does something similar that works with Arc Pro, but we currently don't have anything that does that for Arc Pro.
Okay, that's all.
So currently the only sensors that work for Scalextric Digital only work with the previous 2 car digital bases.
Which
and
I thought,
computers.
probably like a lot of people, I thought I was buying the most bleeding or the best feature set with our Pro.
I mean, you were in one way, but not in another. It's like, yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me started. We don't have enough time. I've only got a minute left. I can't bitch and moan about Scholastic for the rest of the time. Well, no, I can't. Anyways, there are pluses and minuses for all Scholastic bases and all digital systems. The other one that has pit lane sensors that is Scholastic compatible is Oxygen. All you got to do is slap some magnets under the track, and there's your sensor. But that's a whole nother topic that we'll do on a whole nother day. But we're at our 2-hour mark, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and we'll let you guys chit chat about other stuff. But for now, we'll wave goodbye, and we'll say bye. Everybody else, come
Bye.
join us on
Thanks, Greg.
live chat.
Bye.
Bye.